Is the screen visible? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So uh, you can see that today we are going to start third unit. Well, we already have started uh, one of the topics in the third unit, and we are going to continue the third unit with a different topic, that is ethical decision making in business. Now we came to know what is ethics, and then what are the principles of personal ethics, what are the principles of professional ethics. Okay. Now we are trying to apply, we are trying to apply ethical decision making in business spheres, in business fields, in workplaces where business runs. Okay. So we will see that how ethics and its productive implementations work in business spheres. Now, if we look at the first point, that is that there are several ethical theories, right, that have been developed by philosophers over the years, over the decades. Now, these theories offer certain benchmarks to set organizational or professional standards. So, whenever we talk about ethics, so there are many theories about ethics, and even whenever we talk about ethics and business, so we are trying to look at ethics in terms of business purpose, right? Now what happens then? Now, when we look at ethics in terms of business purpose, uh, then we tend to follow a number of certain theories, because those theories are considered to be the foundationalist theories. Those are the foundations to understand, to implement your business. So we will see what kind of theories are there, those theories which are considered to be benchmarks. They set organizational standards or professional standards, and more importantly, those theories might help to develop a basis for normative judgment that could transcend organizational or professional cultures. So basically, what does it say? Well, it says that if you are going to apply ethics in business spheres, then you have to go through certain theories. Otherwise, you may not qualify to implement any business strategy in your company. So, to become skilled, to become knowledgeable about business ethics, you need to know all those theories, right? So this is what this the first point talks about. Now, if we move ahead, that however, it must be stressed here that business theorists have not made much use of these theories that could offer model of ethical decision making. Okay. So we can see even within the theories there are some loopholes. It happens nowadays that the theories that are printed on the books, that are theorized in different ways in different platforms, but the theories sometimes does not suit, theories sometimes do not suit to the contemporary, the current state of business ethics. Okay, so theory and practical are of two different nature. Sometimes theory helps to implement the practical works. Sometimes theory and practical look very different. Maybe theoretically you are knowledgeable, but you don't know how to implement it. So your knowledge will be useless. Theoretical knowledge will be useless if you can't implement it out. Okay, so this is what I wanted to tell. Now, looking at the next point, what is that? There are a couple of reasons for this. Ethical theories and their relevance to business research are not easily understood by business theorists. Ethical theories and their relevance to business research are not easily understood by business theorists. And the next point is ethical theories being normative are difficult to put into practice, right? So theories are of quite different nature. A theory will talk about different improvements. Theory will talk about different advancements, but the basic practicable strategies, if that is not suitable, then there will be, a problem in implementation of the strategies. The next point is, however, some writers have developed models of professional standards based on some of these ethical theories. And of these, there are three models based on rights, justice, utilitarianism. They are the prominent, and they are always often used than other aspects. So, what are the aspects that are always in use in business spheres? Rights, justice, utilitarianism. Yeah, well, we already talked about utilitarianism. Whenever we talk about utilitarianism, two names always comes in our mind. One is Jeremy Bentham, another is John Stuart Mill. We will again talk about them. Okay, so this is the introductory part of this topic, that is ethical decision making in business. So these are the points that you should keep in mind. The first point is that ethical decision making in business dates back to some philosophical foundations of ethical decision making in business field. And second point is that one should know all these philosophical foundations to be aware of different or several business strategies. Next point is there are some techniques, I mean, there are some ways in which business theorists have looked at them. You should also take a look at those issues. And the last point is that some standards we need to know, and standards will be set on the basis of rights, justice, utilitarianism. Okay, these are the points. Now the second point is rights theories. Now we are going to talk about rights, justice, right? So to talk about rights, yes, there are rights theories. So let's see what's there. The rights based theories, again I would like to clarify that these rights based means the right that you have, in Hindi hak, not the political party. Okay, rights or lefts, no, in this case we are talking about your rights, my rights. So the rights based theories were advocated by Immanuel Kant, who stressed personal rights. Yeah, do you remember Immanuel Kant talked about goodwill? Okay, and who stressed personal rights. And Locke, Locke actually one of the philosophers, John Locke actually. So Locke, who underlined the importance of property rights. So these are, informative questions you should keep in mind, or you may, pin it down. that Kant talked about personal rights, John Locke talked about property rights. Both the proponents, both the people, I mean both the persons, focused on the entitlements of individuals, okay, as persons with dignity, and held the view that ethical decisions should protect the legal and moral rights that an individual is entitled to. Okay, so they are actually what they say. They are saying that the entitlements of the individuals, as we have, suppose you have property, so you are the owner of that property. So this very entitlement, owner, being owner, having the ownership upon something, so that ownership is includes a certain ethics in itself. Okay, that you are owner, that in automatically includes certain ethics in itself. You can uh, make use of your ownership, you can invest it, you can even, what should I say, I mean to say that you can invest it, you can invest your ownership for some profiteering outlook, profiteering outcomes. But you can also, by some bad means, you can also utilize it for your personal interest. Okay, I mean to say that you may also have some mindsets to cause some harm to other people. So if you are ethical, then you are not going to make those things. If you are ethical enough, then you are not going to take those kind of actions, those kind of evil actions. Okay, so being owner includes a kind of ethics. Now, the next point is, according to ethicists, these individual rights would include the rights to free consent, freedom of conscience, privacy, free speech, due process. Okay, so these things are there, but each and every rights that you see here, ethics are always there. Ethics is always couched within, you can't see it, you can't visualize by just looking at the terms, looking at the words, but ethics is very beautifully couched within them, like free consent. Yes, you have free consent, but consent should be decent. Consent should be social. Consent should be holistic. Okay. Somebody say, yes, I have consent. I want to enjoy life. So yes, you can enjoy life, but enjoying your enjoyment of life should not cause any harm to others. Then that is completely ethical. Okay. Next is freedom of conscience. Again, the same. You can apply the same point that I just made. Freedom of conscience. One must have the freedom of conscience. If you are suffering from any kinds of dilemma, then you should get rid of it. You have to come out of the prick of conscience, and you should enjoy, you should experience the freedom of conscience, because freedom of conscience includes ethics. Prick of conscience, ethics is there, but the ethical dilemma was there actually, and you have to come out of ethical dilemma and experience the freedom of conscience. Okay, next is privacy. That is also ethical. You have something private with you. You have something confidential with you. So okay, that privacy also includes ethical behavior. Okay, next is free speech, due process. So each and every content, each and every factor, ethics is there. These moral rights are important, normative, justifiable claims and are derived from the nature of all the members of the moral community. Okay, so these are the factors that you can see that any individual all over the world experience. Any individual goes through all these factors. Doesn't matter the people's background, doesn't matter any nation or culture or anything else. Okay, these are the factors that each and every human being undergo, right? Next, according to D. George, there is a considerable overlapping of legal and moral rights. Sometimes, sometimes the legal rights and moral rights converge. Sometimes the legal rights and moral rights overlap into each other, that it's sometimes it become indistinguishable. You can't differentiate that this is legal right, no, this is moral right, no, this is legal right. So it sometimes it becomes very difficult to differentiate the legal and moral rights. Okay, so now, but while legal rights are protected by law, moral rights have to be protected by society. Okay, legal rights are protected by law. Law is there to maintain the legal rights. So, in this way, likewise, moral rights also should be protected by society. But here we can add one more point with it. That is one more point to this idea that moral rights have to be protected by society as well as by each and every individual. It should be stressed, however, that these rights are not absolute. Again, here I would like to say that the rights that we experience are subject to change, and now, the right that you have today. I am talking about moral rights, not political or constitutional rights. No, okay, don't mix up with constitutional rights. Those are fixed rights, but I am talking about dynamic rights, moral in your mind. Okay, so those moral rights are not absolute, they are subject to change depending on the situation, depending on the perspective, depending on your approach to life. Your moral rights change over time. Rights imply corresponding duties, especially the duty to respect others' rights. So, again, this is just one of the explanations that you should respect, you should show a sense of respect to others' rights, whether you also enjoy the same rights or not. Doesn't matter, but what you need to do is to have a sense of respect for others. Now, coming to another theories, that is justice theories. Now, if we look at these justice theories chronologically, justice theories precede rights theories and can be traced to Greek philosophers, Plato, Aristotle. These are there in the history of Greek. So Plato, Aristotle, it was believed that they existed in the 5th century BC. I mean, BC stands for before Christ. These theories advocate that all persons should be guided by fairness, justice, equity, and by a sense of impartiality. Okay, so the theories that Aristotle and Plato advocated, in the very what should I say, historic, in the very prehistoric time, we can say. So, what they say, what they point that all persons should be guided by fairness. Fairness refers to you should be fair with the work that you are doing. Okay, you should have some justice with you. Justification should be there with you. Equity, distributive. I mean to say. That equality should be there, and a sense of impartiality. You cannot be biased, you cannot be partial, you cannot be one sided. You have to be objective, you have to be impartial. Okay, so this is how we can gain justice. Now, Rawls, another critic, what he says, he has made some contribution to the development of the theory in a modern format. And what is that? That in the modern context, ethical decisions should result in a situation where all human beings are treated equally. Okay, so ethical decision should be there, and those the ethical decision that will be taken by the individual, that should lead to, an equal. I mean, that should lead to distributive justice. Okay, that should lead to distributive equal justice, and in case some are treated unequally, it must be based on some defensible reasons. So, and if any kind of fraudulent or defective action takes place, then that can be argued in terms of some defensible reasons. Okay, so this is what Rawls said. Now, the next point that comes here, that it is in the nature of things that all persons cannot and should not be treated equally. Okay, so in this case, in this particular topic, justice theories, these are the points that help to understand justice theories. That you should have fairness, justice, equity, sense of impartiality. These are the points that you need to keep in mind. Now, if we look at the last point that is visible, that will be grossly unfair to the judge who has to maintain higher status to command respect from those on whose issues he or she sits on judgment. So this is an example. This is just an example that you need to see. Next, moreover, treating unequals as equals is unjust in itself. Obviously, right? That if you are treating someone or something as equal, but actually that is not equal, that lacks equality, that or that person lacks equality, then that is a very unjust decision. So people should be treated equitably, and that is equality based on justice. So when there is equality, there is justice. That should be the, idea in the mind of the individual. Okay, so that is about justice theories. Now, again, we are going to have utilitarianism. We already discussed about it. Now, utilitarianism, what is utile, useful, more than, it means more than useful. Okay, that's something that you can make use of, that is some workable, and yes, and that is something which is workable, which is productive for you, that can give you some profit instantly or of in the future. So these are the utilitarian aspects. And what is utilitarianism? Again, we can see that we already did before. Utilitarianism as an ethical theory holds the view that an action or decision is right if it maximizes utility or produces the greatest good for the largest number of people. You are working in a particular workplace. So, you people are going to get into different setup, different types of jobs after some years, or maybe some of you are already handling with some part-time works. But we see that in the workplaces, utilitarianism is always available, because mm, if you are making use of something, it can be money, it can be land, it can be knowledge, it can be relationships, it can be emotion, it can be assets, it can be possessions, accessories, whatever, anything. So if you make use of that, and that is profiteering for you, for your life, and that profiteering is common to any human being, then there is no problem at all. Utilitarianism is successful when it does not cause any harm to any other individuals. Then it is okay. Okay, so that is there. Next point is this theory is based on economic postulates and can be traced to the thinking of such classical economists. You know, at least you know this name, Adam Smith, father of economics, and David Ricardo, Jeremy Bentham, John Stuart Mill. I already mentioned before in the previous classes, though it was the latter duo who formalized the ethical theory, right? So Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, you should remember these two names about ethics and ethical theories. Utilitarianism employs a teleological approach. You know, telos, T-E-L-O-S, telos, T-E-L-O-S, telos. telos मतलब होता है purpose, aim, objectives. Okay, so a purpose oriented approach, teleological approach. It is a kind of a teleological approach. What? Utilitarianism. So, utilitarianism employs a teleological approach. It talks about the purpose, the ways of purpose, the different ways of purpose. ओके, देखने का नजरिया जो होता है, you are looking your purpose in a different way. I am looking my purpose in a different way. So ways of looking at purposes. So that study is called teleology, and there utilitarianism employs a teleological approach to ethics and asserts that behavior or actions should be evaluated in terms of their consequences. Okay, so what kind of behavior you have now? If you misbehave with somebody, then that person will tell you he doesn't have a good behavior. He can't behave properly. He misbehaves with people. She misbehaves with people. Okay, so your behavior or your actions will be uh, evaluated by looking at the results, by looking at the consequences of the actions. Okay, that is the behavior that produces the greatest net gain for all affected group is considered moral. So if you behave properly, then the receiver also is evoked to behave properly, right? If somebody behaves properly with you, so that good behavior, the sense of good behavior automatically evoked in you. Yes, do you maybe but if there are some problems, then that may not be evoked, but apparently that reciprocal communication, right? So that becomes a kind of to and fro, one to one communication, or one to many, or many to one, whatever. Okay, so it will be a interactive communication where uh, uh, the sense of good behavior can be transmissible. Okay, but due to some lack, some barrier, it may create miscommunication. Okay, so that is the point, that behavior that produces the greatest net gain for all affected groups, and that will be considered to be moral. Okay, now we are looking at the next point, that is the last point, that virtue approach, virtues. Okay, good deeds, good what should I say, virtues, like let's see, virtue approach a very ancient concept. You know, virtue comes from Latin word vir, virtuous. Okay, vir, vir, not Hindi word. Okay, it's a Latin word, and from vir, virtuous, virtuous. Okay, so then in English it is pronounced as virtuous. Okay, so virtue approach, a very ancient concept. It advocates that ethical actions should be consistent with certain morally acceptable virtues that would pave the way for full development of humanity. The assumption behind the theory what constitutes morality in a given context is not only what is normally accepted as moral but also what is acceptable to a mature person endowed with a good moral character. So, virtue is not something that is a kind of set rule. It is a kind of value, you can say. It is a kind of human individual values, okay, that people experience after after reaching to a certain degree of maturity. Virtues are attitudes or characters traits that enable us to be and to act in ways that develop our highest potential. Okay, and they are like habits, so that is once acquired they become characteristic of a person. The virtuous person is the ethical person. So right, so virtuous basically means the values that you carry with you, the ideals that you carry with you. Maybe usul can be one of the Hindi word to understand this. Okay, so actually this much for today, and so we have done uh, on this. Yes, you can, if you look at the syllabus later on, then you can see in the third unit. Uh, we have taken this topic, and what are the points that we have, that right theories, justice theories, utilitarianism, and virtue approach. So if we have all these things, so these are the theoretical points, and if we have all these things in mind properly, systematically, and then definitely we can apply strategy, I mean business strategy, ethically. We have to apply business strategy ethically. In the next class, we will see that how we can apply. These are the ways to which it will help us to know how to apply, and in the next class, we are going to see that. What are the strategies that are applicable practically? Okay, so yes, this much for today. And if you have any doubt, then you can tell me.